Hi, this is Vicky, also known as Dragonfly7673, and today is Tuesday, April 8th, and it's about 6:15. I'm going to warn you, there may be some wonky things this episode. Right now, the sun is shining in on me, and I am looking out the window, and it is pouring rain. I also have kitties who miss their mom and think they need lots of attention, and every time anybody touches the table, the camera falls. It's one of those days. But we shall get through it. I also have the balcony door open. The screen door's shut, so the cats can't get out, but it's open because it's gotten kind of stuffy, and it's nice to be warm enough to let some fresh air in for a little bit. So, hopefully, it's been quiet outside, so hopefully it'll stay that way. So, I have a bunch of stuff to show you. I actually have two things that I finished that I don't have here. One of them I meant to show you last week. Now, when I went to Netopia, there was a community scarf, and you were supposed to add some little emblem of yourself. Now, it could be a store-bought charm, it could be something you knit or crocheted, or it could be just about anything that you want to add to it. That being said, I had sort of forgotten about it, and Tina said, well, I bet you could think of something to add. So I looked up on Ravelry and found a pattern for a dragonfly applique, and so I crocheted it up in, I don't know, I don't even think it took 20 minutes to crochet up, and then I sewed on some beads for eyes, and put a pin back on it and attached it to the scarf. So here is the dragonfly applique. I don't remember the designer at the moment, but I do already have it linked in the show notes, and it's on my project page. That was the dragonfly applique for a community scarf. That was actually done, I should have showed you last recording, and I totally forgot all about it until I was doing the pictures. And I think I might have posted it at the end of last episode in the pictures and just didn't put the details in. So I thought I'd mention it and explain what it was. Then we had a dear friend retiring from work. Now, she has worked at the company for 20 years. She retired on her 20th anniversary. And one of the sweetest, nicest people you will ever meet. She's been a good friend of mine for the last 6 years while I've been working there, and I was part of the party committee to give her a decent, fun send-off. And one of the things we did is we were going to surprise her with little things each day of the week for her last week. And I mean, one of them was a cup of her favorite flavored coffee. One person brought in one of her favorite muffins. Somebody brought in a little cat figurine. And one day there was balloons. So I knew she collects little animal figurines. But she also knows I knit, of course. So I decided I was going to make her some little animals. Now, I was thinking originally I would do this while I was in Canada, and I totally forgot to pack it. April just sprung up on me, and I totally forgot all about it. And so I ended up doing them the weekend before her last week. So I have pictures here, but there's a little squirrel and a rabbit and a hedgehog. And I did the squirrel in one night, the bunny in part of an evening on a Saturday while I was visiting Mom and my son, because I was going to bring him back here the hedgehog got done part of Sunday and finished up Monday because I needed to have them on her desk Tuesday morning before she got there. So let me put pictures here. They were part of a pattern called the Wee Woodland Wuzzies. And again, I don't remember the designer. I want to say Barb Prime, something like that. Barbara Prime? Anyway, so the Wee Woodland Wuzzies. They also in the pattern had a fox and a mouse, an otter. I think that's all. I think that was the other ones. But I did the ones I had. And the fuzzy tail on the squirrel, I think I told you guys that I knew what I was going to use the sparkly yarn for that I had gotten in my prize package from Netopia. That was what I did for the fuzzy squirrel tail. So, and I had just enough time to give them all a little bit of accessories. So, she really liked them. I actually, in the bottom of each, they were knit flat and then seamed, which was great practice for the doing a visible mattress stitch. I did them, the pattern is for worsted weight, but I did them out of Knit Picks palette, which is a fingering weight, because I have lots of palette in lots of colors, and so I didn't have to go buy anything. The eyes are beads. Anyway, I put 2 pennies in each of the animals on the bottom to help hold them steady. So they actually stood up really well. So those were the 2 things I finished that I was unable to show you. So I also finished, and I meant to leave this with Mom. This is the Minecraft Creeper cross stitch, and this was from Happy Cupcake Creations Etsy shop, and she has a bunch of kind of geeky, nerdy cross stitch patterns. Mario, Minecraft, obviously, Doctor Who. So this will be framed and put in my son's bathroom, and he actually, I don't think he quite understood the work involved until he saw me working on it when he was visiting, and then he realized that it actually took time. So I got a very definite thank you from him. So there is another one I want to do that is a alphabet sampler, and I have to work with Mom to get the supplies for that. So that is done, and I'm going to show a picture here just in case this wasn't clear. So I also finished comfort shawl number 2. Now, if you remember, I had finished the main body of this while I was at Netopia, and then I sent it away with Sandy so that I didn't have to carry it with me to Canada. And then, so since the last recording, I did finish it. I actually realized that I don't know which end is the end, but I had ended on 2 blue, and then realized that that actually wasn't going to work because I wanted to do a single blue edging. So I actually had to do 1 more band of green, but then I did a single blue edging all the way around. Hi Tiggies, down Tiggies. All the way around, just to give it a little touch of being finished. Now this pattern was actually the slanted shell pattern, and it's actually meant to be a baby Afghan, but I just adjusted the cast on width, and then of course the number of repeats to make it into a shawl of the appropriate size. I picked this pattern because of the fact that the stitches were done in the spaces instead of in previous stitches, which made it a lot easier when dealing with the homespun yarn. So I did that one. And then I also finished a 3rd one, which I admitted to you I was cheating a little bit on. I had this shawl, was my grandmother's, and she never used it. So all of this purple was the shawl that I had given her and she never wore. And it wasn't quite big enough, so I took the yarn that Mom had that had gotten damaged, and I made an edging. Now the edging is just kind of, I just winged it, and if I was going to do it over, I would have just done a straight shell, but whatever. I attached it, so the middle part was actually knit and the edging is crocheted, but it adds 5 to 6 inches all on the sides, which then made it wide enough and long enough to be sent in for Threads of Compassion. So those are mine. I'm going to pause here. When I'm pausing, the shawls take up a lot of room, so I'm readjusting. So I'm going to pause, and I have some more to show you from other people. All right, last recording I showed you shawls. I showed you pictures of shawls from KPAR 62, and I now have them in my possession, but I'm not going to show you again. So, but I do have some other ones, and this one is actually from Mom. So she has one shawl, and she donated a ton of yarn, which I actually already dropped off the yarn when I dropped off a bunch of squares. I actually donated a bunch of squares that were from me and from some lovely people at Netopia. So I had almost 20 squares to hand them, and I donated a bunch of homespun yarn that, for various reasons, the store where my mom worked had them, and they weren't full skeins, but they're almost full skeins, like they were used for a sample, or somebody used a little bit and returned it, or they used it and it's just like not quite in condition that you can sell it again. And the people at Threads of Compassion were thrilled to get it. And I also donated a bunch of blue and green yarn that we were using for the squares, because as the squares are winding down, I don't need all the blue and green yarn. So I figured I'd donate it because they will use it next year when they do yarn bombing again. They're expecting to either do yarn bombing or do something else that's using the blue and green yarn. So last year I guess they made crazy hats and things. So as long as I'm talking about the yarn bombing, there were some local news picked up on some of the yarn bombing. So I can't post the video in here from the local news, but in the show notes there are links to the news. Now when you go, the news is more than just the yarn bombing, but they start about right, and then after they do the little blip about the yarn bombing and the Blood Center of Wisconsin, then they go on to whatever was next on the news that day, weather or whatever. But I thought some people might want to see what they did with the trees. So, and I do have here from who is another Kathy, some more squares. And Lynn did tell me that they will take the squares because they will use them. They're planning on still using them next year. So I'm still going to, these are the squares from Catham, and they're still going to use them next year. So when I drop off the shawls, I will drop off the squares. Anyway, this is the one from Mom. And she did a ripple afghan. So, and she remembered to leave her string. I didn't remember on any of mine to leave the string. And other people haven't either. And I was talking to Lynn, and she said even though they like having the string and they'll use the fringe if you have fringe, they're certainly not going to turn a shawl away because it doesn't have the string. So that was from Mom. And then I was just talking about Kathy, who is Catham, and she did another ripple one, not in homespun, which was probably easier than Mom's. The homespun is hard to see to put into the stitches. So And she also left a string, so very good. Apparently, I forgot to leave string. So, and in case anybody's wondering that hasn't been watching, the strings are because they will put a Donate Life charm onto the shawls. But if you didn't leave a string, it's fine. So, this is another great big one, and I'm going to stop and post pictures of both of these. Alright, now I checked the mail yesterday, and I was surprised that I had a box with shawls because most everybody has been asking for the address, and I give them Mom's address just because it's easier. But Spinnin' Lady, who is Leona, actually knew my address, so she went ahead and shipped hers directly to me because she had my address handy and she was going to the post office, which was perfectly fine. There's no reason you can't send them to me. It's just that if there's a huge pile, if I end up getting more than one box a day, which is probably not a big worry, but if it happened, there wouldn't be a good place to put them outside. So, but Leona actually wove her shawls, which I had asked Lynn about, and she thought it was a really cool idea. And I really like the way these came out. Now this is woven, I believe Leona said with homespun, Lion Brand homespun, but it has such a different feel and texture from knitting or crocheting with it. And I really think these are going to appeal to the guys when they were talking about they need some man wraps. Now they all look like this, so I'm not going to pull all three out. But I really like how these came out. They're sturdy and they're soft. I mean, I just want to pet it. And I mean, the crocheted shawls, the ones that I did, the one Mom did, everybody are also really nice. But there's just something about the texture with the woven. I could see it being a very comforting texture to pet. I'm a very tactile person. So to me that means a lot. So, but I really like how the woven ones came out. And I'm going to post, I'm going to steal a picture from her Ravelry posting so that you can see all the color plays. What's actually been happening is things that get sent to me or that I finish, I take to show Mom when I see her. So I took Sandy's shawls and my shawls to show Mom. And then, of course, I see the ones that got shipped to her. So we kind of like share and go, ooh, wow. Yeah, I mean, we ooh and we ah. And so she was saying she really hopes that she really would like to feel the textured ones or the woven ones. I'm sorry, I just got hair. And I'm like, well, I will probably see you and be bringing them. So, Mom, don't worry, you'll get to see them. Tiff's the only one that gets left out because she's too far away. But we got tax returns and everything done. So now, best friend and I know for sure that he can do his Aikido camp in DC, which means we can start making the arrangements to go see her. And, his sensei is also going, which means she can take his weapons, which it is a weapons camp. So it's using boku and jo, basically sticks of different sizes, which I'll probably get in trouble for saying it that way. But we want to take the Amtrak train because we thought it would be a fun way to go and make it kind of part of our trip and part of our adventure. It is no more or less expensive than flying. It is, however, driving would be the cheapest. It would take the same amount of time as driving, approximately, but you don't have one person having to drive the whole way. You know, you can both relax. I can knit, he can read, whatever. It's like I said, it's no cheaper than flying. But we just thought it would be, for us, we had thought about it, and the more we thought about it, the more excited we got. And then when we found out that Amtrak won't allow martial arts weapons, not even as carry-ons, or not as carry-ons or checked luggage, all of a sudden the whole thing kind of started to fall apart. And it was like, oh, but we both, we're both going, but we really, really wanted to go that way. It had become part of our plan. Now he found out that his sensei is going, and she will probably fly. So she will probably be able to take his weapons with her, and then we can take the train like we were planning. So our hope is that, or our kind of plan I need to talk through with Tiff, was that part of our trip will be him and I just getting to spend time together. Part of it, he'll be at his Aikido camp, and I will be with Tiff, so Tiff and I will get time. And then part of it, all three of us will get time because they both went to school for archaeology, so they have a lot of the same interests and want to go to the Smithsonian and stuff like that. And I don't care as much, but I will. I want to go to the Smithsonian so I can say, yeah, I've been there. But I'm not as enthralled in it, and that's not the big part of the trip for me. So, frankly, the big part of the trip for me is if we go over 4th of July, is that I would get the best fireworks in the U.S. on my birthday. That's what I'm looking forward to. I hadn't even thought about it, but best friend pointed it out. All right. That was a whole lot of stuff that wasn't knitting. Although speaking of stuff that wasn't knitting, this past Sunday, my son and I went to go see. Here. We went to go see Mary Poppins at the Fireside Dinner Theater. Now, a lot of times at the Fireside, you do your meal, and it's a very nice meal, and then you go to the show, and it's a theater in the round, so no matter where you sit, you're getting a good view. We actually were in the very front row. We were actually in the front row when I took him and his girlfriend to see Little Shop of Horrors last summer. But I had taken best friend to see Mary Poppins at the local Marcus Theater. I don't even know when. And I really enjoyed it. Best friend, not so much. It's not really his thing. And we were far, in order to get seats we could afford, we were far up. And here, and then my son was kind of upset because he likes going to those things with me. Like, he really enjoys it. He had a good time the other day. And so when we went to the Fireside, everything was up close. Now, I will say that some of the Mary Poppins magic loses its effect when you can actually see everything right here. But that's okay because he's of an age that he doesn't believe in the magic anyway, so he's more interested in the technical piece of how they did it, so that worked out. Oh, the light's going away. I hope that's not getting too dark. So, if you go to certain things, you'll get the featured menu, which is always a little bit tied into whatever the show is. A lot of times they have food that he doesn't really like. He's very texture oriented. So this time as soon as I knew this was coming out last October, I looked up when his spring break was and booked seats right away and got us the matinee brunch because I knew brunch and the buffet, he'd be able to pick and choose whatever he wanted, and he was very happy. We enjoyed the show. It was good all the way around. And then at the end, you're doing the standing ovation. Well, when we stood up, we were so close to the stage, and everybody is singing and clapping, and I mean the audience too, and it felt like we were part of the show at that point. It was kind of cool. But I didn't get any knitting done during that. Well, I had knitting with me, but it was not something I could do without looking, which does bring me to the next thing I've been working on. So, I've been working on these socks. Now, this is Knitter's Nightmare. It is a self-striping. It is her baddie base. And it is the perfect colorway that she did especially for the time period that we were doing the pet blankets. I wanted to do something more interesting than a vanilla tube sock, so I started to do a sock called the Amy sock, which had single twists front and back, and I realized that it was not something I could easily do. I could do one direction of twist easily, and the other direction like irritated me within the first 2 rows, and I ripped it out. I wanted something that was a little more mindless. So I started the fruit gum striped socks. Now, if anybody remembers, in about the 80s, 90s, there was fruit striped gum, and that's where the name came from. And so you use any striped sock yarn, and it starts to make the diamond shapes just based on the stitch definition. Really easy to memorize. However, it's not quite easy enough to do in the dark. I tried a couple times. I tried working on it a little bit at Mary Poppins, and it didn't work. I tried practicing at home by closing my eyes while knitting. That didn't work because I knew I was going to 2 movies this week, and so I was really hoping it didn't work. Oh, I also took the kids to see Peabody, Mr. Peabody. Mr. Peabody and Sherman, Mr. Peabody, maybe it's just Mr. Peabody. I took the kids to see that. I had this, couldn't really work on it. At that point I was still trying to do the twisted one that was totally did not work. Went to Mary Poppins, tried to work on it a little bit, didn't work so good. Went to see Divergent with my son on Thursday, which was a really good movie. I didn't know what to expect. He wanted to see it because he said all his friends were talking about it. I didn't know what to expect, and it turned out to be a really good movie. And then Saturday we saw Captain America. We went and met my friends, a group of my friends that I call the Geek Gang, lovingly. They're the people I used to play D&D with. And we went to see Captain America, the new one. And then I couldn't knit there either. I ended up biting all my nails down because by then I was just fidgety. Even though I really liked Captain America. I liked it much better than the first one. And I liked the first one just fine. I like this one significantly better still. So let me show a picture of this. That yarn bowl in the picture is the one I got from Fluffy Dog Knitter, and Debbie Henkel, and I want to say her shop is Twisted Willow Farms, but she normally doesn't have the shop updated. Every time I've bought something from her, it's because I've seen her at an event. I saw her at Guts, Grits, and Pink Lipstick last year. I saw her at Knit in the Mitten. I bought a mug from her, and this time at Netopia, I bought a yarn bowl. Now at Netopia, there's no market, but if you are one of the people who is attending Netopia and you have some stuff to sell, Tina lets you deal with it if you want to. You know, you can bring it in, and if other people would like to buy it, but there's no official market there. So, now I want to talk about. So last week, Sunday, my son came, and we saw Mary Poppins, and then we came back and we hung out with best friend. Monday, I worked. It was just a pretty much normal day. Tuesday, I worked and I had to take my car in for its 100,000 checkup. If I had been thinking, I wouldn't have scheduled that during the time my son was here, but he went to go visit friends, so he didn't care. Wednesday and Thursday, I took off of work so I could spend time with him. So we hung out all day. The one day we watched the whole second half of the latest season of Walking Dead. I think it's season 4. Now, I didn't particularly like this second half of the season, and I was talking to a friend of mine who really thought it had a lot of character development, and he was right, it did. Watching it all in one big binge, it was a little slow going. And he kind of said, oh, yeah, maybe. He could kind of see that. So, It had a ton of character development. I'm hoping it'll pick back up in the next season. But for right now, it's done. Thursday, I went to a special goodbye lunch for Angela, who I talked about earlier. This is the admin at work. And then my son and I went to go see Divergent, and we hung out in the evening. And Friday, I went to a women leader conference. It's hard to say. I kind of question how they named it. But anyway, it was the 5th annual Women Leader Conference put on by UWM, which is UW Milwaukee, in the continuing education group. And when I signed up for it, I was really excited. It's a good chance to network. It's a good chance to get out. I got there and realized I didn't know anybody and kind of freaked out a little bit. I was very nervous. I don't do well with random mingling with people I don't know. I'm okay if I'm at a conference for SAP, which is our system at work, because the people I'm going to see are not only using the same system, but they're trying to do the same types of things, and there's something to bond over. I'm okay at knitting events because you're bonding over knitting or yarn or crochet or spinning or whatever. And even those events make me a little nervous. But to go into something where I know nobody, they're from all different industries, I kind of freaked. I was really stressing out. If you saw me on Plurk, you knew I was stressing out. Now, I had packed my stuff that morning in a tote bag that had my company's logo on it, mainly just because it was the right size. Well, somebody saw me and saw that, and even though she and I didn't know each other, she grabbed me and made sure I came over with some other people that were also from my company, but we were from different parts. So we didn't, one person I do kind of know, I've worked with her, and she's worked with my group. So at least once I saw her, I'm like, oh, okay, Caitlin, I know her. And then somebody else I actually know pretty well. And she's somebody like, we see each other and we give each other a big hug. So I felt better, and I had a table to sit with. You know, there was always a kind of a homing place to go back to, even if we aren't best friends in real life. We're good acquaintances, and we could come back together. So my freak out was over then. So, but I ended up having a really great time. That we had the person who first spoke was Vernice Amar, also known as Fly Girl, and she was a Marine helicopter pilot for attack helicopters. And now she's an entrepreneur, and she gave the most riveting, exciting speech. I mean, having her as the first speaker, she just got you revved up for the day of thinking about, stop saying what if, start saying why not? Why not do this now? She said, don't take risks, but make gutsy moves. Make moves that you feel in your gut are the right thing to do. And, you know, they may be a little scary, but go take the step. She goes, she doesn't like calling them risks because risks imply that you're doing something that you haven't really thought about. Gutsy means you've thought about it and you really think this is a good thing to do, even though you're nervous. So make gutsy moves. She was just very inspiring. Then we had a breakout session, or I went to a talk on conflict management. I felt I should have taken something else. I actually did not learn a whole lot in that one because that's stuff I do all the time, and it's things I've taken other classes in. I felt like I should have gone outside my comfort zone when I was choosing which breakout sessions I was going to go to, but you picked them ahead of time. And honestly, later I was thinking about it, I could have dropped into another one. Nobody was checking at the door to see if you were in the one you signed up for. But I went to all the ones I was assigned to. Then we got back together for lunch, had a delicious lunch, and our next person that talked was, I want to say Dara Torres. She was a 41-year-old Olympic swimmer who won silver in the last Summer Olympics. So, and she was inspiring in a totally different way. She wasn't quite as revved up, but she was very real about trying to reach what you're going for, and no matter what your age, and don't let age backwards or forwards determine your dreams. If you have a dream, go for it. And then there was a couple other breakout sessions. So overall, it was a good day. The group I was hanging out with, we kind of, none of us really were too much into the mingling at the end of the day. Partially, I think you're just kind of done. And if you weren't somebody that was going to grab a glass of wine and you weren't networking for jobs or something like that, none of us really felt like we needed to be there. So we actually went up to, this whole thing was at the Pfister Motel in Milwaukee, which is expensive. So, and I live right here, so I would never stay at a hotel in Milwaukee. And it was a very nice hotel, and it has a lounge at the top called Blue, which has an awesome view of the city. And so one of the women I was with said, okay, we've got to go up there, you know, and I was like, yeah, I'm coming with, because I may never have a chance to see this again. So anyway, it was a really cool day. So Saturday we saw Captain America, and then we went back to best friend's house, and a bunch of his friends were gaming, and they had purposely picked that day so that my son could join in. And I have gamed in the past. I did not game this time. It was more fun for me to be heckling on the side and finishing my creeper cross stitch, because that's when I did that. Sunday, we took my son back, picked up the kitties, helped Mom move a bunch of big furniture, because she's going to be doing some remodeling, and so she needed some of the big furniture moved out of the way so she could move the smaller stuff. And then when we came back, I started swatching for my knit swirl. Now, I showed you the book. I wanted, the book does not come in a PDF version. And I didn't really want to scan it on our printer because I didn't want to break the spine of the book. Plus, the book is more square than rectangular, and I didn't want to try and figure out how to line it up so that I could get an 8.5 by 11. So what I did is I have an app on my phone called Snap2, the number 2, PDF. And it takes, you can take a picture of a page, and then when you put them all together, you convert it to a PDF. Supposedly, if you do it right, it will also be a searchable PDF, like it'll recognize that there are English words. I don't know if I accomplished that. I haven't tried. But I made a PDF of the pattern I want, which is the Plum Perfect. So I now have a PDF, and then I printed it off. I printed it off at work because we had the good printer at work. Now I can write all over it. I can carry it around with me. I don't have to worry about wrecking my book. And I put the PDF in my Dropbox so I can access it other times. So I said that I swatched. I found, this actually takes 2 colors. This is the cover of the book. It's not my sweater. This is the sweater. I'm really sorry for the light. But there's actually little stripes of a different color in there. And so I'm doing, this was the yarn I won at Netopia. It's classic Universal Yarns Classic Worsted. It says color 613, and when I looked, it says that's charcoal. When I think of charcoal gray. Every time I look at this in the sun, it's more of a brown, like a charcoal brisket for a grill instead of a charcoal gray. And I already had this Universal Yarns Classic Shades in my stash. And it's a single ply, slow color changing yarn. Now, this is a 4 ply, I think. 3 or 4 ply. I haven't actually looked. But it's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. This one's 70% acrylic, 30% wool. Same brand, same weight, and I think they will work well together. And I swatched yesterday, and you can see the little strips of color in there. Now, depending on where the collar is and stuff, the back side is actually sometimes visible. There is no right or wrong side for this sweater. But there are little strips of color. And my swatch, it calls for a size 8. I am used to being a tight knitter and always having to go up. So I started with a 9, and it turns out that it's too big. So I'm going to swatch again with the 8 because I don't want the sweater to be gigantic on me. I'm going to post a picture here because there's no way you can see that color at all. But I think the sweater will be very nice when it's done. I'm very happy with it. Couple other things I have. The I'm trying to make sure the one night must have been, I have no idea what night it was. Anyway, I finished spinning the singles of my mustard color. So here is a picture of all the singles. I will probably ply that this week, maybe. It might be at least, I don't know. I'm hoping to have at least one, there's 6 bobbins. I'm hoping to, and I'm going to 3-ply it. So I should end up with 2 large skeins of yarn. I'm hoping to have at least one of them done, but maybe, maybe not. I also got my Socks That Rock, Rock and Sock Club shipment. This is Mad as a March Hare. And it is, well, it's basically inspired by spring. It's greens and pinks, and I have a very nice picture of it that will show up much better. And then I have, Sandy gave me this yarn. I need to talk to her. I think I'm supposed to make this as two prizes. I think. Anyway, but this will be when we get to the Halos of Hope prizes. These will be prizes for that. There is a pattern in here, and I think the pattern and the yellow yarn and the stitch markers are supposed to go together. And then there's also another hat pattern, here with the little pom-pom. I need to ask her how she wanted that divided out. If it's supposed to be one big prize or divided out. And then also when we got yarn from our Shawls. I think this was from K-Par. But I'm honestly not sure, and I'm really sorry if I'm getting it wrong. I will correct it before I post anything. But there was yarn to donate to the podcast for whatever. And I was asked by my son's girlfriend to please help sponsor the cystic fibrosis walk again. Last year, if you remember, my son asked me to please help raise money for his. He has a friend whose sister has cystic fibrosis. I think that's right. Oh my God, it's great strides. Yeah, I'm sure that's right. Anyway, if I have it wrong, I'm going to feel really bad. So my son had asked me, and this year, and his friend and his girlfriend are actually best friends. You know, they've been best girlfriends forever. And she asked me if I would help again. So, and I said I would. I haven't started anything yet, but you will be seeing something from me with prizes like last year. And unlike all the knit-alongs, that one doesn't require any knitting. No obligation knitting. Just donations would be very nice. So I will be putting that together at some point. I actually took the Kalina's Cure tab off the website, because the show notes website, because I'm going to be putting up a fresh one for this year when I have all my information and my thoughts together. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So I think that's everything. It's everything off my notes anyway. I did do the show notes ahead of time to save myself some headache. And I think that's all. I will talk to you guys all next time. I think I'll be on a mostly regular recording schedule again. If not, you guys know I'm coming back. So I will talk to you guys all later. Bye now.